Sunday, a couple days. I had questions about what happens after that. It's just normal season. Mid-April is when the regular season goes till, and they play playoffs, and then the summer league starts. So you're going to have League of Legends for the remainder of the summer. But if you're watching in the replay, there's already a video breakdown for this slate. This is a live stream aspect and a component that I plan to do 1 to 2 times per week for League of Legends stuff here on YouTube, Twitch, and Sportscaster. Feel free to follow on whatever platform you are watching on. But yeah, it's mainly a Q&A standpoint. It's to track line movements, let people know where those are at. I do have projections if you are interested, though they are available on Patreon with my player pools. All of that is already uploaded on Patreon. Will change if there's any news. I'm updating everything on my end in terms of just line movements. Nothing major to point out yet. There's been some line movements, of course. Nothing that is completely out of the ordinary. I do believe, though, that this line has moved to, this is like minus, I believe that's moved a decent amount now. So you're seeing a lot of line movements. Mainly the favorites are becoming bigger favorites, and that's about it so far in the slate. None of the line movements have moved towards the underdog so far today. So what that just tells is what I kind of said earlier on the video, is that I probably don't have any interest in any of these underdogs tonight. You can get there, of course. There's a couple of slight underdogs, but most of these slight underdogs have become even larger underdogs. Most of the big favorites and average size favorites have become even bigger favorites based on a line movement. Day of line movement and as lock approaches, which we have a good amount of hours until then. That's the main thing that I'm going to be tracking at this point to see if there's any edges that come out a little bit later on. At this point, it doesn't seem like that. As yesterday, you saw SN Suning Gaming. You ended up getting the win out of them, and today was a very good day for a lot of people over on Patreon as well. But it was a situation where their line moved just so much. Like, they came from being a decent-sized underdog to almost minus money. As lock approached, they were getting very close to it. Like a plus 104 is what they closed at. What's going on, everybody? Sal doesn't know the LPL. Yo, Eagle, you do not know the LPL. I could assure you that I do. Sal, any news for the lineups for the LCK? Sometimes they post them. You can check out people over on Twitter, but for the most part, you're not going to get lineups until like minutes before lock if you're lucky. What is LOL? League of Legends. Hey, Sal, what's going on, Chase? League of Legends, yes. Alrighty. So I'm fine taking any questions at this point. Obviously, you want to, when you get these bigger slates, especially 6-game slate now with the Korean League, South Korea coming back, you're going to have just the opportunity to not have to take stances on underdogs. So, I mean, you'll get lower ownership on them. Not really seeing any spots that stand out as obviously trying to get the win upside. And when you have 6 favorites that are decent-sized favorites and 4 of them being huge favorites, I think it's a situation where I don't really have to try too much for that. DraftKings pricing is very tough today. Yeah, I think so. I've been following LPL since you were in the womb. All right, so continue to follow, or you can leave the chat if you want to try and be facetious in the chat. DraftKings pricing is very tough today. Yeah, I think it's tight, and it makes sense. When there's 2 to 3 huge favorites, you're going to get priced up players in situations where they're going to win. It's just a matter of, do they actually pay off their salary if they clean sweep at 2-0? I mean, Funplex has been pretty easily at this point. Gen.G, you're seeing them become a much larger favorite from when they opened at like a minus 9-10 favorite at this point. A lot of these projected to kind of clean sweep it. OMG is going to be the spot that I think is very interesting. Huge favorite, of course, and has the best matchup on the slate by a wide margin against just Victory 5 today. And Victory 5, what you're going to get out of Victory 5 is a situation where they just have 5 more deaths per matchup than anybody else in the slate. They only win 7.7% of their matchups, 8% if you want to round it up. So it's a great spot for OMG. The problem with them is that there's not much upside when it comes to when they win. They don't have just ceiling performances, but they have probably the best matchup that you could possibly have. So when it comes to projections, they're going to grade out pretty nicely. The other downside, and it's not as much of a downside if you're getting the under 30-minute win bonus if you're OMG, this game is not going to last long. The 2 quickest or shortest average game times on the slate are the teams that are facing each other today in OMG and V5. So it's not going to be lasting that long. You get quick finishes for OMG, and you just get quick losses for Victory 5. All right. It's an esports game. It's esports. It's the only one that DraftKings currently. We'll see if Counter-Strike or anything else comes up. It's the only one that currently is lasted there. Stack OMG and Funplex. I think that seems fine to me. So is there a way for starters? Usually on Twitter, if you're going to be finding it on Twitter. But that's probably your best bet. You can look up some spots, but your main bet is just looking on Twitter for lineups, and it's probably just LPL and some LCK that you'll get the starting lineups for. I went heavier on Gen.G. Yeah, I think Gen.G's fine. Right now, Funplex, Gen.G, OMG, and JD Gaming is my 4 highest owned 4-mans. Got a lot of OMG in my crunch. I think that makes sense. Most projections should probably pop them since their matchup is going to be just that good in terms of Like, they're not going to be a fantastic kills per game team overall. They're going to obviously just be in a great spot for a win here. Just the matchup that they have is fantastic. But when it comes to just overall kills per game, not a team that stands out, and that's what you get. Like, their averages, even in victories, aren't that fantastic, but you're getting just fed here the best matchup you possibly can. So the thinking there, at least projection-wise, is that it's going to pan out for a bunch of players on OMG that are just not priced to where they potentially could be today ceiling-wise. Is this televised, Chris Palmer asks? It's on Twitch and YouTube. You can stream it there. I'm sure other sites have it too, but you can just get it there. Sal, signed up for your mailing list. Super impressed with DFS Assist book. Really cool and good work. Thanks. Nice, man. Yeah, there's free strategy guides down below. That's what that is. Took a lot of time to write those. So hopefully it helps all of you. Sal, been following since your car video on Xmits. Even, I think, anyways, I tweeted you earlier for starters. Do they get the out symbols? No, probably not. You're not going to know. For the most part, you're not going to know. You might get the lineups before the LCK games lock, but there's no late swap, so you're probably not going to know. I don't think OMG scores enough. They usually don't, but the idea here is that the matchup is going to get them, so I think that's what makes him the most appealing spot on the slate. So the line movements that you've been seeing is just in the favor of all the favorites today. You're getting OMG's line moving a decent amount. They opened around like a minus 585. They're down to a minus 714, so I have no interest in going against them either way. Gen G just becomes even more appealing as they went from like a minus 910 favorite to all the way now to a minus 1100 favorite. So huge favorite there. I mean, highest win percentage on the slate if you're just talking about how many games that they actually get to. Tons of stuff. So I think Gen G Esports does stand out. It's not the type of ceiling performance that Funplex Phoenix has, but it's also not the same price points. It's also not going to have the same ownership on it. So those are the four that I think stand out. I'll probably have less on Damn One Gaming. I'll probably have a little bit less on Dragon X. Still going to have all the favorites. Probably not going to be getting much of, if any, of these underdogs tonight. If you want to play contrarian, you can. I did it last night. I've done it a good amount. Just tonight, I don't really feel the need to. There's obviously teams, KT Rollster, Top Esports. Top Esports would probably be the team, if any, that I would be getting to. I've had them pop up in crunches right now for stacks. They're the only one that's getting through based on my projections. Again, if you're interested, they're linked on Patreon. But as of right now, Top Esports would probably be the team that I get to, if anything. I do like JD Gaming on the opposite side of that, so obviously don't be stacking JD Gaming and Top Esports. You don't want to be doing that. I meant Christmas Eve. I could be wrong, but I know, yeah, my first ever NBA video at this point, a year and a half ago, for DFS-wise at least, was in a car because my house was completely filled in every room. I couldn't make one, but I wanted to make sure to get one out. That's the exact same day. I think it was Christmas Day in the morning, the exact same day that I hit 1,000 subscribers. Any major change in the Vegas lines? Brian, did you get in time from what I just said? I just went over the Vegas odds, so I want to make sure that you got in time. What about Dragon X? Highest LPL kill team versus highest death rate team. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be something that I end up getting to. It's just the problem is, like, you're looking at a situation where relative to the slate, we don't really care. We're not breaking it up between the Koreans and the China League right now because they're on the same slate. So it's not like we have to separate them. Relative to the entire slate, they're going to come in with like the 5th or 6th highest kills per game. I mean, that's fine. They're a good size favorite, so they should probably hit at that average or above a decent amount of the time. I think they're fine. They're just not one that I'm getting a ton of at this point, mainly because of their players as an entire team's upside. I think there's more so like 2-man stacks that you can get there. I'm running exclusively 4-3s and 4-2-1s tonight. So I'm only doing 5 lines in League of Legends, 6-game slate. Should they all be 3-3-1 lineups? No, I'm not really running 3-3-1s. I think it's the third best right now to be running, but I still think that there's just so much people rostering people who are out. I've had so many messages, I took a 0 yesterday. So that doesn't happen in other leagues. You know who's playing. You don't take zeros. So I still think we're in the very early stages that it doesn't pay to be cute yet. Like 3-3-1s, I think will be more optimal in like a month when everybody's running 4-3s and 4-2-1s. I think a lot of people are running 4-3s right now, but not a lot are running them optimally. Not a lot are getting different in their 4-3s if they're even running them, and sometimes they're not even starting the proper players. So I am not experimenting with 3-3-1s at this point. It's 4-2-1s and 4-3s for me. 3-3-1s I think are fine. It's just you're limiting your upside at that point, in my opinion, more times than not, and I don't think you have to limit that upside at this point. Seem like the Korean teams score more. From everything I've seen, the Korean teams actually score less because they play at a much slower pace of play. In the past, it was that the Korean teams score more. So like at my entire database that goes back like 5 to 6 years, they do. But as the years have gone on, it's kind of flopped to the LPL now. What's your thoughts on the match fixing from last night? Guy was kicked off the team. Yeah, I saw some report about it. I mean, I don't really have any thoughts. There's really not much that I can... Like, I have no control over that. I can't control the pass. I really don't have any... That's kind of my standpoint on a lot of things. I don't really have any thoughts, especially since I guess you can argue that affected me, but there's no way of telling. Hopefully we don't have an underdog blow everything today. An underdog blow everything today in terms of winning? Yeah, I mean, I think top esports, if you're going to go for an underdog, they're probably the team that I would get to the most. Third highest kills per game on the slate right now. They also die a lot, so that's why I like JD Gaming. But just in general, like top esports individual players, if they ended up knocking it off for a victory today, and I would expect this to go the full 3 rounds, more so than not, if they were to knock it off, you're going to get really good price points on players who do have high upsides. Do you think the Sharks have caught up with League of Legends? I feel finishing in the green is getting harder. As of right now, no. I assume you mean professionals. There's just not a lot playing. They're slowly getting into it, but I mean, it's just Brick and Awesemo that I've been studying that are playing optimally. There's a lot of guys playing optimally, but playing optimally and actually in the top 10, finishing often, you could still play optimally. In 1 to 2 months, when everybody jumps on this, because there's every single night $100,000 prize pools, and people are like, oh, I don't actually have to know that much about this, and all I have to do is correlate lineups and have projections, and that's simple. Then, yeah, I think that it's going to be a lot harder. But as of right now, it's a print money machine, especially if you're entering a lot of lineups. If you're 150 maxing and you are playing optimally right now, you will probably, it will be very rare that you're not in the running for a takedown at least once a week, and that's like at the very minimum. And you can 150 max now. I think they added a 150 max quarter entry. Hey Sal, how can I contact you? I have some questions about the Google spreadsheet. Austin Ward asks. Twitter at SalVetriDFS. I get a ton of questions a day, so I'll try and look at it, and as long as it's appropriate to answer, I will answer it. I'll try and help where I can, but a lot of questions that I have about spreadsheets is how do you make your projections? How do you get the spreadsheet together? I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, I taught myself based on just courses and stuff online. It's a very in-depth thing. It's not a simple 2-word answer, but I'll try and help where I can. I'm talking about like how esports did the other night over IG. Yeah, esports was the number 2 team on the slate in terms of just win and loss upside. IG was number 1. Yeah, and IG got taken down. They were like a minus 385 favorite. If I have to guess at a starter, I just avoid that position for now. I think that's fair. What's good, Steven? What's going on? Yeah, so I mean, I keep tracking the lines. You have a ton of time until these games start, 7 more hours, 2 a.m. But yeah, 50K to first. Second time that we've seen that, and it's going to be the standard at this point, in my opinion. The weekend slates will start to be 6 figures, and then if these continue to fill very soon, which they have been, you're going to get 100K to first prize pools every single day. And a lot of the times those will be duped, especially if they're only like 4 or 5 game slates and everybody's stacking the exact same teams. So at this point, I think the best underdog spot is probably top esports if you wanted to go there. Other than that, I'm going to be sticking with a probably most ownership, not in any order, but to Gen Esports, OMG, Funplex, and JD Gaming. How do you feel about fading the LCK since LPA likes to just run it down? Yeah, I mean, it's probably not a thing that I'm going to do. There's only 2, or there's 3 LPL and there's 3 LCK, so I don't want to be fading the half of the slate, right? I do just naturally like the LPL, the China League, a little bit more just because of the matchups for the team today. But I'm not going to be fading the LCK. Like, there's statistics and like projections to it, and they match up a couple of these teams very well and very similarly with some of the other teams in the LPL. So on a higher note, you're going to see just a slower pace of play. But when you break down into specific teams, it's an average, right? So there's still going to be teams that are the outliers, and you have some of those on the slate tonight. So definitely not fading the whole thing. Did you have Spurs or Pistons in the Awesemo bracket? I had the Pistons, so I already lost. I had the Pistons winning the first round. I have the bracket somewhere right over here. I had the Pistons winning the first round, so I lost that, but I have the 2012-2013 Heat winning the whole thing. So Brian just asked about line movement. Yeah, line movement. Gen Esports has seen a really big line movement in the favor. So far, every single favorite's seen positive line movement, or most of them. Funplexes has stayed the same at minus 1429, but you've seen positive line movement for Dragon X, for OMG, and Gen Esports. JD Gaming has seen a slight line movement. None of the underdogs have seen positive line movement. So That just tells you that people aren't betting the underdogs, and people who have influence on the line are not betting the underdogs tonight. If there was one to pick, I would be taking probably top esports. Just look at some of the AD carries. It's going to be very interesting tonight because there's very expensive plays. Like if you're running optimizers, if you're using my projections, if you're a patron, those are, when you plug them in, you're going to see interesting things. Like the captain options that you end up getting tonight, I think that they're intriguing, and I think not a lot of people are going to be getting them. It depends on your rules as well, right? Like I have a ton of rules in some groups in there, exclusions, things like that, but randomness you should be using as well in this, in my opinion, to some extent, just to try and get a little bit more unique lineups. But yeah, I think that the way that they priced this slate tonight in terms of having really AD carry, mid lane, and jungler being really expensive. I mean, your junglers are insanely expensive tonight, and it makes sense when there's just a lot more teams in the slate. Like you have 4 guys over 7K, 4 guys over 7,200. Most of the slates, you might get 1 guy popping into the 7K range. So it makes it really difficult to try and get a ton of upside plays into your lineups, which just means that if you're going to be rostering a 4-man stack of a very expensive team, you probably have to go just with a cheap 2-1 somewhere else. Or if you get lucky to find a 3-man stack of a favorite that is not going to be highly owned after that. If you aren't playing ADC in the captain, what is another good option? I think anything. I mean, mid laners are going to score a lot, but ADC is the highest scoring player on teams that win. That's why they're priced like that, though. So I'm fine running everything. I think I'm very similar to Brick from the article I was reading on Osmo, that I'll run everything in the captain spot except the team position. So I'll run top laners, I'll run support, I'll run junglers. You're usually going to get the most salary relief from a support than a top laner, so it'll be easier to fit in, but I'll run them in there. People think that it's not optimal. It surely is optimal. If you can look back at the last week of slates, and 4 of the 7 slates over the last 7 slates have been a support or a top laner. Now that's a small sample, of course. It doesn't mean that 50% of the time it's going to be one of those positions, but it's much more. It happens much more than people actually think. Now, the optimal way to play, if there wasn't a lot of people stacking and you were playing cash, would be to have an AD carry just jammed in there in your top laner spot, not worry too much as about stacking, but we're trying to beat 99.9% of the field and take it down, so you have to have your lineups to be correlated. If there is a proven way that says statistically your best chance of winning is to have 4 players and 3 players from a team, or 4, 2, and 1, right? That's statistically telling you that. Then to disobey those rules, in my opinion, especially when the contests are so soft right now, is me pretty much saying that, no, I'd rather take a more likely chance to lose, if you look at it that way. And I don't really like if I dupe with 3 people tonight, and you probably will if you win, or 2 people, I'm completely fine doing that, because I think that this is the more optimal way to play. Having dupes is not great in other sports. It's limiting the dupes in this sport. If you're only splitting with 1 person, that is as good as a solo win in other sports at this point. I looked on Bovada and Rotoballer for the odds. I use whatever this site is. They update pretty much every second. Odds portal. Top 3 captains, says Dave. Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers. It depends on the team you're playing. There's no straightforward captains in League of Legends. It just depends on the team. Like, because you want to stack, and if you're stacking, obviously salary starts to come into play. So it depends on the teams you want to stack. It depends on the other team you want to stack with them. Because, I mean, the obvious top 3 captains are going to be, LWX, Loken, and probably Deft, just the highest scoring players in the slate more than likely. But their teams probably don't correlate together nicely, or don't fit in together. Just AD carries score the most points when they win by, sometimes a lot, but it's also ownership, and salary is the biggest one. Scored 636 with that. Nice. Yeah, scored a lot of huge scores this morning in the 650s. It was nice. What is the best stack correlations you found? 4-3 and 4-2-1. I had a ton of esports that match and pivoted off of them because of some advice. That was probably one of the worst DFS days I've ever had. That match and pivoted off. Yeah, no, I'm not sure what you mean there, Jojo. Answered that my question. Yeah, so it seems like a fun slate. I'm going to keep watching it. It's a difficult slate to just build automatic lineups, so I think that makes it a little bit more appealing. Like, it's not like last night where there was a pretty clear underdog that had upside just based on line movement, a pretty clear favorite that had even more upside based on line movement. Whereas tonight you just have a ton of teams, and it's a lot of new teams to a lot of people who just started playing, like myself 2 weeks ago, and have had a lot of early success. So it'll be interesting to see how constructions start to go with a new league introduced with bigger prize pools. Consistently filling these matches is good as well. We all know it's Devontae Adams. Fly, Eagles, fly. What's going on, Dave? Davey Eagles got some people. Pretty cool. Favorites seem to just dominate and the game ends fast. Yeah, most of the time the favorites are going to dominate. Like somebody said, Invictus Gaming lost the other night to Evil Geniuses, I believe, EG. Yeah, that's going to happen. And Evil Geniuses was a good team. They were like a minus 385 favorite in Invictus Gaming, and they got, I believe, swept 2-0. That's going to happen. Like, you're going to see these bigger favorites lose, but when there's if there's 3 to 6 games a night, on average now, there's going to be like 6 games a night because of the Korean League. Maybe one underdog wins a night. Maybe. Like, they're just such huge favorites. You have 2 teams that are, or 3 teams that are minus 700 or better favorites. That's just, those are almost auto wins. Teach Me How to Dougie did well in my captain spot last night. Thanks, Al. Yeah, Teach Me How to Dougie, Teacher Ma. Yeah, I had about 15%. Was talking to Steve in Discord chat earlier. Had about 15%. Steve had like 40, so he probably did great. 15% of Teacher Ma. This is a 2-game slate, so the percentages are going to be higher. And then about 25% of Jiaming, their 80 carriers. So those are my 2 highest owned captains. And then after that, some players from the SN side. You'd rather have the games that last longer for fantasy, right? Not necessarily. Obviously, so you want, like, quote-unquote bloodbaths. You want just a ton of kills from both sides, and then obviously get the winning side of that. But it's not always the case. It depends on the team. Like, Funplex is just sweeping. Go look at Funplex's recent games. They'll win every single game, and they probably will tonight 2-0. And they're so dominant, and they get so many kills per game, 16.9, by far the most in the slate by over 3 on the nose. They're just dominating that their best players are still dropping 100 points, 80 points, 90 points in just 2 rounds. So it really depends on the specific team. You're going to notice the pricing based on that. But generally, out of those like mid-range, like slighter favorites, smaller favorites, like JD Gaming versus top esports, yeah, it would be nicer if it went 3 rounds, because JD Gaming is probably not going to come out and just be overly dominant. They have the upside to do that, but probably not going to. So the answer is a lot of things. Is just it depends. Depends on the specific team. I did 2 different League of Legends tournaments. Seems best to just stack cheapest team that will win. Yeah, cheapest team that will win usually means that they are the most at risk for an upset, but it depends on the team. Cheapest team to win is good as like a secondary stack, I guess you can say, like your 3-man or your 2-man stacks. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, is to try and find the balance of win upside, scoring upside, and victories. Like a team that has a cheap salaries, they might not correlate well as a full team stack. Like there might be just one guy, the 80 carrier is a monster on the team, but then you're looking around and you don't see anything else. Like their support player, even in victories, or their top laner, even in victories, does nothing, right? Jungler is very hit or miss. Their mid laner is okay. Like now you're starting to stack a team that is very fluky even when they win. So like in those situations, I'll start to 2-man stack those teams. And that's based on rules and Fantasy Cruncher and some other optimizers that I like to just kind of check with. And then also just based on whatever projections that you have, will give you those specific teams. Sal, I can't get off of the DSR stack. Thoughts? Yeah, so Dragon X stack, I don't have any problem with them. They're not a team that's popping up as much for me. I'm getting some. I'm going to have stacks of all the favorites and probably top esports. I'll probably be running 7 different stacks tonight, but obviously I say 7, that's a pretty large number. 7 different team type of stacks, that's a large number, but it's going to be scaled down, right? Like top esports as an underdog, I'm not going to have as much. Dragon X and Damwon Gaming are, as of right now, that's the 2 stacks that I'm getting less of out of all the favorites. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong. Plex didn't start. Yep, Plex did not start. That was announced. Teacher Ma was starting. I don't know if Ty was the one who, I think Ty, you were the one who commented yesterday on my video that Plex was starting. That was not right. You can find the lineups on Twitter for the LPL. They come out. And also, Teacher Ma had been starting the previous game. Do you like stacking 4-3 or do you like some other combo? 4-3 is the most optimal. It's the one that most people are going to do. 4-2-1s are fine. 3-3-1s I know people are running, but I'm not. I've experimented with 3-3-1s. I've been running them on a lesser scale, but probably only going to run 4-2-1s and 4-3s tonight. It's just so optimal. Like until I start not making money and having win upside and start happening, and I start to lose an edge because everybody's doing it, then I'll start to look into and I'm tracking trends on how many people are doing what, and also on Brick and what they're doing. So once I start seeing other people move and obvious trends changing, I'll change. But I don't need to get cute right now. If you can, printing money is a stretch, but if you can have a really good opportunity to win, and you need to win because like you're not going to survive if you're playing the big GPPs, and I'm playing everything in the tournament, in the lobbies, but if you're playing just the big GPPs, you're just not going to survive if that's all you are playing and not winning because of the payout structures right now. Are these DK tournaments getting bigger now that the other sports have been out? Yes, ridiculously bigger. They started at around $5,000. I mean, they started at like $3,000 to first, then 5, then 10, then 20, then 25, and now they're going to be about $50K a night. There's $100K to first on Sunday. Yes, they're going to be the biggest thing. By all accounts, this is not leaving for the entire summer in the Spring League for League of Legends, and I'm sure we'll get some other esports potentially coming as well. Do you have a favorite position to play one-offs? Yeah, the team spot. Will there still be a 3-game slate just for LPL? No. I believe there is just a 2-game slate. Is there a 2-game later slate, or am I wrong on that? I believe it's just a 2-game later slate after the 6-game slate. Thanks, Al. Great info. I just started DFS 2019. Always trying LOL. Now it's 5 out of 5 days green. Nice. Oh, I always, anytime anybody writes LOL, I still think laugh out loud. But League of Legends, now it's only League of Legends 5 out of 5 days. Nice. Nice job, Garrett. What do you think about stacking Gen and DRX? Yeah, I have no problems. I mean, they're 2 decent-sized favorites. One's a huge favorite. I don't have any problems with it. Robbie Anderson, Fantasy Sleeper next year, maybe. Discord link, or is that only subs? I don't have subs. I have patrons, but yeah, Discord's only going to be patrons. And it depends on the tier of patrons, because I don't want to be responsible for 300 random people posting in there. So it is, I guess you can say, there is a cap to it. It is exclusive. I think there's Hall of Fame spots open right now, but probably not something that many people want to invest in during a pandemic. By the way, my 2 singles are on the 2 top favorite wins. That's fair. Yeah, 2 gamer at 430. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks, Sam. If I'm just a 1 or 2 entry guy, should I do GPP or cash? GPP, and just stick to single entries and 3 max. You can throw it if you want to have the win upside. You could throw your lineup for single entry or 3 max into the big tournament tonight for 50K to first. It is a terrible payout structure for people entering 1 or 2 lineups, especially when you factor in that myself, Awesemo, Brick, other people are entering 150 lineups in this to year 1. You're just not going to win. I'm not singling you out specifically, just in general. Like my first 2 years playing DFS, my first 2 years of college, like you're like, think about how long you've been been playing these big things. If you're entering 10, 20, okay, you're starting to get your better odds, but stick to single entry and 3 max. I'm primarily a single entry and 3 max player, but since there is so much money to be had for probably only the next few weeks in League of Legends until people start really playing it optimally, I'm going to be continuing to max enter these. Starters for the LPL LCK. Yeah, LPL starters are out, LCK or not. I also like Aaron Rodgers here. I love it. Will they keep League of Legends on DK when real sports come back? League of Legends has always been on DK. They will not keep these prize pools this big, no, but it's always been on DK. 7 years in DFS, first time being a noob at a sport. What game do they even play? League of Legends. I have no clue how to make a lineup besides don't pick opponents. Yeah, so you just want to stack bigger favorites. 80 carries and support correlate a little bit. Putting a team in the captain spot's not great. Yeah, the game's actually fun to watch. I think yesterday or whenever I did the last stream, I was saying how just awful it is to watch these. I think it was 2 days ago. I watched it this morning, and it's actually entertaining. It's probably because there's just no other sports to be watching. And obviously having money on it helps. Thoughts on Lamar Jackson tonight? Funny. I don't like Aaron Rodgers as much if he lost Devontae. This is funny. I know you probably have talked multiple times, but can you talk strategy with picking spots like team support top? Yeah, I don't pick specific spots. It's just stacks for me. So I'm running like 150. So I'm looking at each individual team, and I'm handpicking them because there's different ways to build lineups, and you shouldn't just run one crunch and take what that gives you, because that's not a good idea. But yeah, I'm not looking at specific positions really. I'm looking at stacks and how to get different there. Seeing if any underdogs line movement is changing throughout the day, which right now there's none. But individual positions, unless I'm choosing a one-off from a positional spot, which is going to happen if I'm playing a lot of lineups, but not often. Yeah, individual strategy is not much. I mean, if you want to stack your support with your AD carry, there is correlation there. Is running a 3-2-1-1 okay on a big slate if there are 1-1 or huge favorites? No, I'm not going to go there. I mean, people are going to win with that lineup construction, 3-2-1-1. But the odds of you winning with that lineup construction are way less than you running a 4-3 or 4-2-1. And not enough people are doing it to make it not optimal. So, just trying to think about it. If I told you, and I'm going to use flat numbers because these are not the right numbers, these are extreme numbers, but if I told you you had again, very extreme numbers, 10% chance of winning if you run a 4-3, and you have a 8% chance of winning if you run a 4-2-1, and if you run a 3-3-1-1, you have a 2% chance of winning. You should never be choosing the 2% chance of winning route, like ever. It's just not optimal. When you have a 5 times and a 4 times more likely chance of winning if you just stack it a different way. So, and that's from me looking back at past winners. That's from me looking back at top 10 finishes. Top 10 lineups every single night are going to have a 4-man stack in them. So there's no way I'm getting away from 4-man stacks. I've played around on smaller slates with 3-3-1, and It becomes more optimal when there's only 2 games because well, then scoring and some of the correlation stuff starts to not matter as much as just top scorers overall. But yeah, any slate that's above 2 games, I'm going to be running exclusively 4-man stacks in every single one of my lineups. And then after that, it's either a 3-man stack or a 2 and a 1. Are the starting lineup set for tonight? For the LPL, not for the LCK. I love watching these, especially when your team starts to flash or whatever it is. They drop bombs and your score goes up, right? Yeah, you watch just like 4 guys just get killed in the middle of the map. Your thoughts on the Hopkins trade? So Dave Jones actually made a video on the Hopkins trade. You can check that out. I tried to watch the League of Legends stream. It's a hard watch because of the terminology and lingo. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I had it on mute. Who are your favorite teams on the slate? The 6 favorites and then top esports is an underdog. Looks fine. In the captain spot, what percentage do you use each position? Depends on the slate. Depends on the size of the slate. On the 6-game slate like this, it's going to be pretty spread out. Each position, I don't really keep track of. Like, I'll be getting like 6% of a ton of different guys on this big of a slate in the captain spot. So it'll be pretty clear across the board. I'm going to get a lot of supports, a lot of AD carries, a lot of mids. People think that running anything other than an AD carry or mid in the captain spot is not optimal. They do score a lot of points, but they are $2,000 more expensive and $3,000 sometimes than other players on their team. So that also is factored in there. I've had a lot of success. My best night, chopping second place a couple days ago, was with a support in the captain spot. I love Gimgoon tonight. Yeah, seems fine. So how much exposure to Gimgoon do you have? I'd have to pull up my fantasy cruncher, which would be on screen because I don't have this. I would say it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 4% probably because I have that for almost every single player in the captain spot. What's the most salary you leave on the table? I don't really keep track of it. If you have $1,000 left over and you like your lineup, that's fine. If you have none left over, you better be really unique in your stacks. Otherwise, you're probably going to be splitting them with a lot of money. But if you have no money left over and you're only playing in a 50-person field, it doesn't matter as much. If you're putting a lineup into the big GPP with no money left over, just know that you're not winning $50,000 tonight. You might split it 6 ways and walk away with a smooth 10K, which is fine. But you're limiting your upside. So more times than not, if you're playing in a huge, large field GPP, if I'm entering 150 lineups, yeah, some will have, well, I guess I'll say that I'm going to have no lineups that have no money left over. I'm going to put a cap of 49,900, and I'm going to see how that works for the next couple of days. I've been doing it lately. Seems to be working fine. So then you're not leaving any money on the table, which just lowers your chances of duplicated lineups. Just got into League of Legends, but damn, Suning choked second game. Yeah, I watched that today. It's better that it went the 3rd round, just more points, so I wasn't really too concerned about it. But yeah, I saw they were up like, 7-2 kills. It's a first at first, and I learned and now found my new love. They still won, though. Yeah, they won in the 3rd. I would have cashed if it was 2-0 because the other team started to score points. Yeah, that's fair. Alrighty, I think I'm going to bounce. Went for about 40 minutes. So before you leave, hit the subscribe button. We're like 250 away from 20,000. That's pretty cool. Again, if you're watching this on the replay still, you can check out Patreon, or if you're watching right now live, check out Patreon if you want the projections every single day for every single league. So projecting 3 to 4 leagues. Going to be on a daily basis once the weekend leagues come back. But those are on Patreon. Hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter. And then, again, if you are watching on the replay or live right now, there was an official breakdown that went up this morning. So if you want less of a chatter and an interaction, a Q&A style, there is just a very direct breakdown of the slate. The only things that have changed since then are, well, 1, I've made projections, so I feel a little bit more confident in some other teams. And then 2, some of the line movements have changed, so you can just reference this video. And then also, if you have Patreon, those updated sheets. When you build your lineups, are you starting with the AD and support because they correlate? Not in every lineup. It's nice because they correlate if it works out, but I'm not setting a rule to automatically make them in the same lineup. Thanks, man. Yeah. Would a 4-1-1 stack work? Not for me, because then you have to predict 4 victories, and that's over the long run. You're not going to be predicting 4 victories as much as you'll predict 2 or 3, and then it's just going to come back to bite you. Have a good day, man. Yeah, you as well. Appreciate you, bro. Are you doing Awesome bracket? Yeah, I have an Awesome bracket. I can't win the 10,000 because I'm an affiliate, but I do have a bracket filled out. Thank you, Sal. Good luck. Go get that 50K. Hope so. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your night. Hit the subscribe button before you go. Check out Patreon. Link down below if you do want those projections. Peace out. I'll be back tomorrow. 6-game slate, I believe, again. See you then.